Hey, I'm Sam from Topline Pro. This is Titan Talks. We're talking to Chris Moore from Elite Business Advisors this week. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you, Sam?
I'm really good. I'm really excited for this episode. It's kind of a special episode because of what Elite Business Advisors is. Would you mind starting us off with just like a summary?
Yeah, big picture point of view. We help painting contractors treat their business like a business. So try to coach them in all areas of businesses. We focus a lot in painting contractors to really help them understand and kind of bridge that gap between the craftsman side of the trade and also the business operation side of it.
Awesome. Yeah, so obviously not our typical small business owner episode, but I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the marriage between the two products is
Yeah.
obvious, and I think we're both really excited to just talk about helping people with their businesses, and I'm really interested to hear what uh, can I call it EBA?
Yeah,
is
that's
that
fine. That's the acronym it always turns into. So there's no issues with that. So
nice? That makes me a lot more confident. I won't be stumbling over any
yeah.
syllables.
No, you're good. You're gonna get sick of saying it all by the end of it. So no worries.
Awesome. So I mean, I still will start out the way that we start out with
Yeah.
sort of all our episodes, which is asking about your origin story. You were running a painting company at some point, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I actually started in the trade when I was 19 with a company called Student Painters back in college. Various college painting companies exist all over the country and North America, but I started with Student Painters. I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri area. And so I started with them in college at age 19, got great hands on experience in what it was like to run and manage a painting company. I stayed with them actually for 7 years. I'll give the shortened version of the story, but stayed with them for 7 years, ran the whole St. Louis Missouri, Southern Illinois region for student painters here over those last few years, and then left. It is as great as that program was. I still have a soft spot in my heart for it. It was a lot of work, a lot of turnover, and unfortunately, the fun coaching stories often get outshadowed by the fires we had to put out sometimes, right? Not often, but so I decided to leave and go ahead and start my own painting business. I knew the industry, I knew the trade. I knew it was an easy kind of transition into the next chapter of life. And so started my own painting company here in the St. Louis area with zero plans for that to be the long-term game. I knew what I'm doing now was kind of where we wanted to get to. I didn't expect to be 100% niched into the trades and the painting industry necessarily at the time, but I knew getting into coaching and consulting was kind of my long-term plan. I just wasn't ready to kind of do that on a dime, right? On a quick decision flip. So had a painting company for about 4 to 5 years here in St. Louis, and then started building Elite Business Advisors in 2018, and I've been doing this full time since 2020 now.
Okay, that I mean, that's really interesting for a few reasons. I think
Yeah,
like the easiest analogy for me to think of is like like play like professional athletes that know that they
yeah,
want to coach, but
yep,
they've got to play before they can coach. Is that kind of how it felt?
exactly, 100%. And I think that's really why we've niched down into the painting industry. I guess beginning of 2022 is when we really decided we were all in with the PCA and the painting industry in itself. Was because when we went to the Painting Contractors Expo in 2022, we left with a lot of clients, and every single person said, "We want to work with you because you've done it." Right? The buy-in was there. We weren't somebody just teaching on theory and, "Oh, yeah, this sounds like a great idea," without ever having applied or been through those situations before, right? And so I actually myself and our entire team of advisors, every advisor we have on our team, we've all owned our own painting company, been very involved in running a painting company. Like, that has become a staple of who we are, truthfully.
Okay, and you also mentioned that when you were kind of picturing EBA,
Yep.
you weren't necessarily planning on focusing solely on the trades, and then it
Was
just kind
not.
of happened that way.
Just kinda happened that way. So, I think for me, I'll be truthful, some of it I think was an ego or a pride thing for some reason. I felt like I was taking the easy way out, right? As we started building this in 2018, I ran it side by side with my painting company for 2 years. We had relationships with Sherwin-Williams. We had relationships with other contractors. They were starting to look to me for advice, right? They kinda knew that I viewed business differently than most painters do, and so it was kind of like the easy way to start down the path. And I don't know if I resisted that because of that. or what, but it took a little bit until I really realized, no, this is actually a strength, right? This is actually a superpower. And in working with, different either, other trades that I wasn't familiar with, or even, a couple different people that were starting like brick and mortar stores or just different types of businesses, it was kind of exhausting because we had to really learn the industry
Mm.
in order to effectively coach them, right? Unless it was just on the finances or just on how do we get more clients, like that can, be synonymous. But it really was starting to get exhausting to have to learn all these different things rather than, hey, let's build a program that is tailored to this specific industry that works for 90% of the people coming to us, right? And so, yeah, so no, initially we wanted to work with every different kind of business under the sun. And then as we started getting down that path and again, opportunities came up, we were like, I think it actually just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Is you don't want to limit yourself. You feel like I understand what you mean about the ego a little bit, that
Yeah.
over specializing that early on would just
Yeah.
seem like you were staying in your comfort zone for no
Exactly.
reason. But then it's like, no, that's actually a really good thing, especially
Yes.
as sort of a consultant or advisor.
Yep.
It speaks to, and it's already sort of come up, and it's something that I wanted to touch on, painting. And I've found that, pretty much all the trades, it's very trust based, like very sort
Yes.
of like verbal agreement, handshake,
Yep.
person to person trust. And it sounds like I was actually wondering if you in EBA would generally sort of stay away from using the term like consultant, because it
Ah,
would maybe cause like pros like not to trust you at first, or just to kind of be
yep.
more wary of the relationship. And
Yep.
it sounds like you've been able to build that trust because you owned your own painting company, and because
Yep.
all of your colleagues did as well. Um, has that has that been a challenge? Has it come naturally? Is it something that you fight on a daily basis in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of thoughts on that. First off, we did term ourselves advisors for a specific reason, right? Because consultant sounds way too like engineering, right? Which I know you kind of come from where the software
Yeah,
engineer
yeah,
background, but like consultant just doesn't click with people in the trades, right? And again, we really didn't do this with the intent of being focused in the trades, but it was still just like a term that is so far out there that a lot of people don't understand. Like if you say, tells me, oh, I'm a consultant, it doesn't actually really mean anything, truthfully, right? And the other term that's often thrown out is business coach. And there's nothing wrong with business coaches, but in this period of time in the last decade, coaches sometimes are coming out of the woodworks, right? And so for us, it was an easy way to kind of differentiate ourselves and position ourselves as, yeah, we are advisors, right? We are kind of like a financial advisor. We're going to tell you what we think is best for you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to go implement it, right? And so we kind of coined ourselves in that term really just to differentiate from some of either the stigmas or the confusion out there. But I do think for us, in your question about the trust, Sam, is like, I think just having that credibility has just really kind of taken care of that right off the bat, right? We've grown very organically throughout the years. We have our own podcast episode or show that goes out every Tuesday. We're super involved in the Painting Contractors Association. A lot of people are discovering us because of the education we're putting out there, right? And so I think that trust kind of gets built into that credibility if people are coming into that channels. Where it gets to be harder is when it's the first time they've heard of us, right? Or they haven't heard us share on a podcast before or speak at an event or do a workshop or something like that. I think that as soon as people start to hear and understand who we are and where we come from and how we're giving that advice, it's pretty easy to have that trust that we can actually help them because we've been there before.
So would you say that most of your clients sort of come inbound? Like I guess the situation that I'm imagining is you
Yeah,
kind of like a lot of these business owners, like, ego is the wrong word, but it's like they're
it's
self-starters.
true.
Like that's
Yep.
why they own their own business. They
Yeah.
think they can do it themselves, and they can. It's just that there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of services and
Yep.
knowledge that you need to have. And it's like, yeah, you could go learn that all yourself while you're also painting houses, but it's like maybe unnecessarily hard. So I imagine
Yep.
this conversation being very like, it's okay to ask for help, kind of almost like
Yeah.
therapizing. Does that
Well,
conversation happen a lot of the
100%.
time?
Yeah, it really does, and I think for us, we've been thankful that we can kind of grow the way we have over the years of we're not trying to quadruple our client base tomorrow, right? Because we know we would rather grow with the right clients that are here to stay with us long term, that are coachable, right? And even in some of our processes, like we don't really chase people, right? Like if you reach out to us, yeah, we'll do our due diligence, we'll follow up, we'll try to keep in touch, but we're not going to like, we're not a salesperson, right? Even in our discovery calls that we do for free with people, if they're interested in having a conversation with us, I tell our team, like, we are not trying to hard sell anyone because all we do in that is we just set the rest of the relationship up for failure if they're really not interested in changing. Right. And so for us, we try to kind of build some of that into our process and not in a crazy way, not that we expect people to jump over hurdles, but because the people that are going to get the most results are the ones that are open to change. They're open to being transparent and honest. And they have to admit that, like you said, you have to put the ego aside, right? It's not necessarily that anything's wrong, but you have to be willing for somebody else to give you a different perspective and see behind the curtain, right? Finances can be a hard thing for people, right? Personally, business, a lot of people want to keep that internal, and I get that. But the only way somebody can actually help you is when they see everything, right? And we have some people that they're like, man, it's so terrible. I'm embarrassed. And I'm like, that's fine. The only way it's ever going to get better is when you can open up and share that with somebody and let them help you, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is very much in that sense of like you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, I guess, for lack of a better term, right? And obviously we
Yeah.
have confidentiality with all of our clients and all of that stuff to protect that. But at the end of the day, it's you have to be willing to open up to someone and be willing to expose those cracks. But we just really try to shorten that learning curve for people, right? Like you said, yeah, a lot of the education's out there. There's a lot of information out there. You can probably figure it out yourself, but let's shorten that learning curve and kind of fast track it for you.
I imagine that shortening the learning curve is a term that probably really helps those conversations. Like we're not trying to tell you how to do your job. We know you
Yeah.
could do it yourself, but let's just do it a little easier and faster,
Yep.
I guess.
Yep. And we have some clients. I mean, I was on a call this morning right before we're doing this, and it's somebody that's been with us for 4.5 years, right? And been making progress along the way. And like our monthly calls, we kind of structure all of our meetings in once a month or twice a month frequency, one on one. We have other stuff wrapped into our packages, but he's been with us for 4.5 years, and he's like, I just need this like once a month accountability to just keep my mind on track, bounce ideas, and just have somebody else to look at a different perspective of things, right? And I love those conversations. And then we have plenty of other people like, hey, we want to double our growth year over year, and we want to meet maybe even weekly in some cases, or add on extra meetings, whatever. And we're kind of able to adapt to whatever people are looking for, right? That's what I always tell people. We want to go from where you're at to where you want to get to. And for some people, that's lots of growth. For some people, it's just building a lifestyle business, and that's okay, right? Like either way, we want to kind of help you get from where you're at to where you need to be at along the journey.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I guess just to zone in on that a little bit,
Yeah,
because uh, there's probably a variety of people listening, many who don't run their own businesses,
yeah, that's
and
okay.
I think it can be pretty staggering. I mean, I think people would think, like, including me, because I've never done it.
Yeah,
It's like running a painting business. It's like,
yeah,
how hard could it be? Like,
yeah.
you paint,
So
you
easy.
invoice, but
Yeah,
it's truly a staggering amount of stuff that goes into it. And I guess I
just a
just
little
want to
bit.
know, like, what are the most common things that you find kind of like first couple meetings with people? Like, what
Yep.
are the things that you really provide value on early on?
Yeah, so I think a couple of I would just say most common things, right? Is finances is a huge one, right? A lot of people, may not analyze how much money they're actually making in their trade business, right? We call it job costing here in the painting industry. Like, do you cost out your projects after every job is finished to see what the gross profit was on it, right? And how does that trickle down at the end of the month with your overhead, paying yourself as the owner? Like, what is left over at the end of the month? On a production basis, right? And I won't go dive deep into that. I don't really look at profit and losses for that data necessarily because you finish a job on the 30th of a month, you collect it on the second of the month. Well, that income shows up that following month. So I don't rely on profit and losses on that as much as some simple
Hmm.
spreadsheets. But so finances is a huge one, right? We have a lot of people like, man, I feel like we're doing good. We just can't figure out why we're not getting ahead, right? Like that's kind of a common thing we hear a lot. And so we're able to dive deep into that. And I think for me and anybody listening to this, whether you own or helping run a trades business, like understanding what your I call it minimum break even number is of production every month is like one of the best things you can figure out, right? Like
Right.
what's the amount of money you need to produce every month that if your margins stay consistent, your overheads consistent, everything kind of holds relatively equal, that the company will still make, a profit that month, right? And when you understand that, like that really helps shift your perspective a lot. So finances is a huge one. Just systems, being organized, being systematized, right? Having systems in place for the production team, for your office staff, for how you're handling things, right? Kind of being intentional with that. That's another huge one. And then I would say the third thing is marketing strategies, right? We don't do marketing. We do some value add emails for like existing client bases and stuff. But outside of that, we're not a marketing company, I guess I should say,
Right.
right? But how do we continue to build our lead funnel, right? And that's where we want to connect with people like you guys for the website and everything else that you guys have to offer here at Top Line. And, and we'll help kind of build some of the organic things, right? I'd always say we focus on the organic and relationship stuff and then connect you with individuals that can help with all the other stuff that they specialize in. But I think that's a big one, right? I think for most people, when they understand their finances, then it becomes more times than not a marketing and sales problem. And then balancing that teeter totter with marketing and sales and production.
So would you say like the businesses that are just sort of happy to be like a lifestyle, just sort of
Yep.
maintain, it's like mostly just, hey, understand your finances so that it's not just kind of purely vibes. Like we feel like we're doing
Yes.
well, we have jobs coming in, but like they actually may not, turn a profit one month or
Yep.
might the next, and they don't really know. It's just kind of based on their feelings.
They're reactive.
Whereas
Yep.
the 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 owners that are looking to grow, you end up pointing a lot more towards marketing and sales so that they can keep
Yep.
keep leads coming in, grow, hire more,
Yep.
expand.
And systems too. I mean, I think that's a big thing because at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours in a day, right? And let's be honest, most people don't want to put in more than 40 to 50 hours a week, nor should you in some cases. And so how do we have that level of growth? Maybe you're gonna have to put in a little bit more upfront in some spots as entrepreneurial cycles happen. But how do we do that in a healthy way that allows your business to grow again systematically, right? Every time you bring on a new crew, do we have SOPs in place? Do we know how we're going to train them, right? Do they understand what they need to do for job sites? Because the last thing an owner has time to do in the painting industry, we really see it start to peak out at about 9 in-house employees, right? When you throw subs
Mm,
in, that's a little bit of a different benchmark. But for most business owners, they can get to oversee about 9 painters until it starts getting really hairy at that point,
yeah.
right? And we rely on the crew leads and other systems and stuff. But you need to have those systems in place because you can't answer 10 questions a day from each of your three crews. Like, because you're out trying to sell $1 million worth of work to get, produced and line it up. And like, there's too much happening. So we need those systems in place to really streamline, to empower your team without you having to be the answer person for everything.
Can you give me an example of like one of those systems that, like, for example, the problem with
Yeah.
fielding questions from
Yep.
more than 9 people, like what would help with that?
Yeah, so a big thing for us is work orders, right? Having a work order, whether it's integrated into a software like Paint Scout or Drip Jobs or, one of the popular ones in the painting industry, Job or any of those out there. Or it's something that you're creating on the behind the scenes in company cam or something, right? Just having a place where it's the scope of work, it's how many hours are expected each part of the project to take. It's knowing again in the painting industry what rooms are what colors, right? What's being painted, what's not being painted. Company Cam's a great tool for this because you can even take pictures and videos and mark it up. Hey, we're stopping this color at this corner of the room. And then this part of the wall is like a different color, and so just
Mhm.
having those things in place where painters aren't calling you, hey, what color is the master bedroom? Hey, are we supposed to be painting the ceiling in the kitchen or not? Like when you have something in place that can detail all that out to where you just point them to the system and say, "Hey, check the work order," right? And eventually, they're not even going to call you; they're just going to go check the work order. And as long as everything's detailed out there, then it saves those reactive phone calls.
That absolutely makes sense.
Yep.
I think I can say this because I think by the time this airs, we will have announced it, but, I
Well,
actually just helped build, an integration with Company Cam. So in Top Line
awesome.
Pro, you can now, upload photos, like, directly from Company Cam. They'll automatically sync over to your website. So we're pretty
That's
excited about
awesome.
that. We've been
That's
working with
huge,
Company
man.
Cam.
Great job. I love that. They've got a great software over there, and a lot of the stuff they've rolled out this year has been a huge upgrade. And a lot of our clients are loving it. So I love that you guys have that rolling
That's
out.
really good to hear. Hey, and
Yeah.
if I'm not allowed to say it, I'll just cut it out.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the power of editing, right? If either of us says anything stupid, we can just cut it. So
Right. Exactly. Um I mean, it's a reasonable segue from what we're talking about now
yeah.
to I don't actually really know the full story of how you met and got involved with Top Line Pro. I know you have
Yeah.
a relationship with our CEO, Nick. Could you
Yep.
just kind of explain how you ended up on this podcast?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, so one of our clients, Steve Lockwood with Lockwood Finishes, is one of your guys'
Mm,
clients, and he was like, man, he's like, I think you guys need to meet. We've kind of put out a list of a couple of relationships that we're looking to develop, right, for people that can come in and solve those marketing problems, right? Website and some of the stuff you guys have to offer was on that list, and so he's like, hey, he's like, I really think you need to meet with Nick. I've been hearing a lot more about you guys in the industry, right? So, kind of taking Steve's recommendations. I think there's a couple other mutual clients we have as well. And so it just led to a conversation with Nick and I to just like, hey, how can we kind of connect and dive deeper together and really hit it off well. And then he connected me to you, and here we are. So that's a big thing for us. Is again, we don't want to be experts in everything. I don't want to hire somebody on our team to be experts in digital marketing and online presence and that stuff, right? Like I want to connect him with people like you guys that are doing great things for the industry that are a huge asset and just be that matchmaker, if you will, and let you guys do what you're good at. And we'll work on again on some of those more organic relationship type stuff that we can do on the day to day level with the clients.
yeah, that I mean that makes sense. There are so many different problems to solve
Yes.
for the folks in this industry. I know that there are like, several more top line
Yes.
pro type businesses that solve like a chunk of this stuff.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you wouldn't have to, gain expertise in each of those areas.
Yeah.
Um, I do wonder, like, do you do you think you'll ever move anything in house, like get like a lawyer or like a CPA just to sort of like hop
So
on?
yeah, so we have done the bookkeeper tax side of things, accounting side, whatever you want to title Crystal. She's way more than all of those things, but
Okay.
she also even in that sense has her own company, just kind of subcontracts out through us, right? So I mean that's a huge one. We see taxes, profit and loss, financials. We see it all the time. She's cleaned up so many things for her clients in the last 2 years. And so kind of bringing that again, I mean, in-house for lack of a better term, again, she runs her own business and, kind of operates more independently, which is nice. She's a great friend of my wife and I's. And so there's a huge level of trust there that I know and trust everything she's doing is in the best interest of our clients and also being done right. And it's really nice for us because again, with finances being such a huge part of things, if there's ever questions and she's involved, I mean, I literally will call and just deal with it, right? Rather than having to email our clients an email and hey, can you send this to your CPA? And then there's questions and the client doesn't know. And then they got to email me. And it's like, just I can go right to the source. So honestly, bringing her on board was huge. Um, Outside of that, right now, no, we want to kind of continue just with these partnerships, with people like yourselves, even attorneys. We've got a couple here, in the Illinois, Missouri area. Some of them are licensed in different states, but that's obviously another thing, right? Is, licensing in certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just trying to continue to build out the relationship side of it. And again, the tax and finance because of how involved we get in that. And that's where my role is shifting in our business in the next year or two is dealing more with that on a higher level for a lot of our clients more than the day-to-day coaching, right? So I'm kind of trying to slowly get myself out of the day-to-day coaching and more into that finance tax role for people that want to dive deep, do quarterly tax planning, like a little bit larger companies that need a little bit more attention to that. It's something I enjoy. And again, having Crystal here kind of in-house is a huge blessing for her and I to partner on that together.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, I mean, you mentioned working with larger companies, and that's something I was curious about.
Yeah.
Like, is there a size of business that's kind of the bread and butter for EBA, or do you do it
Yeah.
all?
Not anymore. If you would have asked me that question 2 years ago, it was kind of the million and a half and under, size of business. We have people that are everywhere from, starting out on their own doing 150 grand a year in painting all the way up to, I want to say our largest client's going to do 7 million this year. So we've really bridged the gap. We've hired a couple individuals that are really skilled at helping those larger size companies that have done a great job in showing that some of those clients that are wanting to double year over year over year, that now their goal for 25 is 4 million, and stuff. So that's been a huge thing to kind of expand our capacity in that, build out more resources, more systems on what some of those companies need compared to the person with three individuals or three painters working with them, right? So no, we've really been able to expand our capabilities on that, and I've been super proud of the team and Andrew and Stuart and those guys that are working with some of the larger companies on just being able to just jump in and navigate that, right? And it's been a nice proof of concept that we don't have to stay pigeonholed just in the small side of things, or
I
smaller, I should
mean,
say.
an obvious like follow-up to that is like I
Yeah.
know it's clearly been working for you to specialize. How, are you trying to grow the areas of your business that are non-painting or non-trade focused? Like I feel like it would be so easily
Yeah.
applicable to different trades.
It really is. And that is, right now we will take on people if they're outside of painting, right? And
Mhm.
with the caveat of like, hey, a lot of this stuff is tailored towards this, right? We have a monthly mastermind call. We have all of our clients on once a month to
Oh wow.
foster some collaboration, conversations. We'll bring an industry expert on, so there's things that will be very tailored towards painting, but it still applies everywhere else, right? And if the person's willing to kind of understand that, but for us, I mean, to fully answer your question, short term, yes. If somebody's listening to this and you need help and you have a trades business, set up a call with us. I always tell people we are never going to work with somebody that we don't feel like we can help, right? And if we
Mhm.
feel like we have a conversation and what you're looking for doesn't kind of match anything that we feel like we can help with, I'll be the first person to tell you that, right? And so we're always open to those conversations. We have had a couple people over the last few years. We had somebody that was a um, like lawn care company, not in the mowing sense, but the treatment sense, right? That we were able to
Mhm.
help get some systems in place and kind of have their numbers in better shape and stuff. So we've had plenty of people over the years that fall outside of painting. That again, it's not going to be completely reinventing the wheel for us, but long term, our kind of probably I would say on our 3 year plan is to really start branching back out into other trades. We wanted to really niche down into the painting side of it, build these systems, make sure our processes are really good and systematized for our point of view, and then be able to kind of take that and copy and paste into other trades, right? And we want to kind of put people in position to where somebody that has again that experience of running a exteriors business, roofing, siding, gutters, windows, etc. Somebody that's been down that path to kind of be in charge of doing the coaching for that division, if that makes sense. So
It does, and I really respect that because you could have just said, "Oh yeah, sure, we're experts in, gutters and
yeah,
exteriors. Come on
yeah,
board." But
yeah,
it seems like you really, I mean, I guess in the sort of advisory and consulting
yeah,
business, it's like your advice is your whole business. So
yeah,
it's like if you're caught kind of giving bad or subpar
yeah.
advice, like it's going to hurt the business eventually. So
Exactly.
I think it
And
makes
we've
a lot of
been
sense.
we've been able to build a great reputation over the years. And again, it's been gratifying to see that continue is I'm not involved day to day with every single client, right? When it was just me and 20 clients, it was a little bit easier to make sure that reputation stayed in check, right? And as we've grown the last 2 years with our team, we got four other individuals on our team now. It's been nice to hear that. And yeah, we try to keep those guardrails in place for sure. And at the end of the day, Sam, like trades businesses are trades businesses. Like, analyzing the finances is the same whether you have a painting
Mm.
company, drywall company, landscape company, insert XYZ company here. If it's in the trades, the financial analysis is the same, right? If you're marketing to residential homeowners, the marketing concepts are the same, right? Again, whether you're doing landscaping or painting or whatever, right? Obviously, you get into HVAC, electrical, plumbing, it's more of a need than a want. And that changes a little bit, but it's at the end of the day, it's how are we reaching these customers, right? And so that's where I say, like, it really just depends on what people are looking for. But I would say 80, 85% of the time, like we're able to help them because again, it's very duplicatable throughout the trades business as a whole, in what people are going to be needing help with.
I I'm curious about that, like, having spoken to so many business owners now in the last
Yeah.
several years, like, what have and you've been on the teaching side for the most
Yeah.
part, but what have you learned in this process that was surprising to you? Like, were there challenges that people had that were unexpected to you?
Um, yes. I think a couple things that I guess I take for granted is organization. And by
Mm,
organization, I just mean, what do I need to do today? Who do I need to follow up with today? And how do I stay looking ahead to make sure the next couple weeks is lined up? For
right.
me, I guess that just came naturally. Again, I came in at 19 years old, learned the business side of the business first. Like we sold plenty of paint. We sold thousands of dollars of paint jobs before I even knew how to hold a paintbrush, like truthfully. Tell me that's not a risky business model, but they're still here today for a reason because it works. But um, so I guess I kind of came into it through that lens first to where I never really realized that like some people just are like, oh yeah, I'm trying to schedule work for tomorrow. And I'm like, you don't look 3 weeks ahead, like, and they're not in the routine of having a to-do list and looking down the pipeline and, like, so I think for me, and I don't mean that in a bad way to anybody that falls into that category, but I think for me, I just kinda took that for granted. There was like, "Well, hey, here's what you need to do," and it was like, "Oh, there's some very foundational time management things, routine things, and just, like, again, systems to put in place to know, like, who do you need to follow up with today? Who should you be calling for work next week?" Like, to make sure we've got stuff scheduled, so I think there was a few things like that I guess I just kinda naturally took for granted. But I would say those are a couple of the big ones. Again, same kind of probably the reasoning behind it, but we've had many people tell us when they start with us, like, "I don't know, we've never had a check bounce." Like, "How's the day-to-day cash flow?" "We've never had a check bounce." "Okay, well, that's a good start." They're like, "I don't know. Like, I pay myself every month and checks don't bounce. I guess we're doing okay." And I'm like, okay. All right. We're going to get some actual concrete numbers down, right? The data versus feelings game that my good friend Nick Slavik always talks about. Um, so yeah, I would say those are a couple of things. And again, it was maybe just me being a little bit naive coming into the industry from a different way. But seeing it now, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense because a lot of people are craftsperson turned business owner, not business minded person learning the craft. Right. And so kind of understanding that and being able to put ourselves in our client shoes definitely has been helpful for that.
Yeah, it's like the journey that they took to the business and
Yep.
frankly, like, something that I've learned as I've just gotten older is, like,
Yeah.
everyone's brain works differently, and
Yes.
even in the engineering field, it's like, they're
Yep.
all different types that make a good engineer, and sometimes we
Right?
get caught into this way of thinking like, "Oh, the perfect engineer, the perfect whatever job it is gonna look exactly like this," but it's like, the truth of the matter is it doesn't take a specific type of person. I mean, it take in some sense it does. Like you need someone who's going
Yeah.
to work hard, who's going to take ownership, who's responsible and trustworthy. But it's like beyond that, like the way they think, it might be more oriented towards the craft, might be more oriented towards numbers.
Yep.
And one thing that
And
I've kind of surprised me is like how many people almost work more in like a partnership, often with
yeah.
their spouse to
Yep.
run the business. Is that something you
Yep.
found too?
Yeah, we see quite a few of that. We basically turn into licensed marriage therapists sometimes. My first thing, I'm like, if there's a husband and spouse on a call, I was like, just so you know, not a licensed marriage counselor. Like, but I'll help try to figure this out in your business,
We're
right?
getting close though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think we got about another 100 hours and we can take the certification for it. But no, I mean, we do see that quite a bit. I mean, I would ballpark maybe about 20% off the top of my head of our clients, are, husband and wife working together in some capacity in the business, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that was definitely a dynamic that, again, I just wasn't around a lot, right? Where sometimes the wife would be more just really behind the scenes and never active, where we're seeing more and more spouses coming active in businesses and navigating that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's been another big one is just kind of navigating how do we not turn it into like I'm the middle person and so's calling me behind the spouse's back before the meeting and like I'm like, nope, I'm not getting involved in that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the
Guardrails are
day,
key. Yeah.
like, these are people, not just a
Yep.
business, and I think in
Exactly.
both of our fields, that's something you learn very quickly.
For sure. And that's, I mean, a big thing too is like for me, and that's why I mentioned the lifestyle business, right? Like at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. Like, yes, the numbers have to work. Yes, there's money behind it that the owner has to make to support their family, right? Especially if both spouses are in the business, they're kind of all in on the business at that point, right? There's not a pressure relief valve of a second income in that sense. And so, yeah, I mean, it definitely is like we're dealing with people, but the numbers matter, right? So, how do we balance that? Like that's I think a big conversation we have with our team a lot is like the numbers we have t-shirts that say the numbers don't lie because they don't, but at the end of the day, we're still dealing with human beings, right? And we still have to make sure that, they're doing okay in and of themselves, right? One other thing I thought of as you were talking, I wanted to add in here is I figured out people in the trades are very visual people, right? Which makes
Mm.
sense, right? Because they're crafts. They like to, be the crafts person and do good work and make it look nice. And so it makes sense. And so I found with a lot of people in the trades, trying to teach them things, having that visual approach is way, way more helpful for them than just talking through it in theory, right? Having something to actually show them, right? I could say all day, hey, go do XYZ thing. But until I can show them an example, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other, right? Or right over their head. So I think that's something good just to know for any of us that are working with people in the trades. And again, the logic behind that kind of makes sense when you think about it, but just that they are visual people and sometimes just need to see that example to then be able to go do something with it for themselves.
So I'm wondering, like, if that's part of where the idea to publish like the Elite Business Academy came
Yeah.
from, like to just
Yep.
have a repository of like all of this knowledge. And it kind of occurs to me, like looking at the EBA site with
Yeah.
the academy and the podcast, like you're kind of giving a lot away for free.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I imagine it doesn't hurt your business. Like if anything, it would just
Yeah.
it's good marketing. But
Yep.
um do you find like I guess just, were you part of the Elite Business Academy project, and how is the podcast going? Do you find that a lot of people come to you like, "Hey, I heard that episode of the podcast. I needed to
Yep.
sign on with you."
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So our podcast has been a huge, huge blessing for us. We're rolling into season 5 here as we get into January, which is exciting. So yeah, we've been able to get a lot of exposure because of the podcast and people finding us organically that way. And again, it builds that credibility, right? Like that is the one place I'll give away education all day because it sparks ideas, but again, they need a lot of times we see people still need help with the implementation side, right?
Mm.
I can give great ideas on how to plan out for 2025 to get your brain going. And some people can take it and run with it, but some people can take it, run with it, but still need some extra guidance on how to actually make it happen. And yeah, our Elite Business Academy, it's our resource portal. So that part's actually just for clients. That's how they can log in for us. So we don't have anything we necessarily give away on there specifically, but that's what it is. It's a resource portal with resources from extra financial things, marketing ideas, examples, templates, things for estimating, things for recruiting employees, right? So we have job descriptions in there. We have sample like 30, 60, 90-day reviews for new employees. Like, again, that's that visual stuff that just having that at least is something for them to take and make their own at that point.
And I imagine it's because it's a lot of work to
Yes.
maintain a static repository of that much
Yep.
information and to make sure it's not out of date and there are no
Yep.
mistakes. But I imagine it's a resource for your clients and it's a resource for you when you're in
Yep.
those conversations. You're like, "Hey, let me pull something up like that you might
Exactly.
like." Okay.
Yep. I did that 3 times on that call this morning. I was like, "Hey, here's kind of an example." And they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's great." And I'm like, "Hey, don't forget this is in the resource portal." And they're like, "Oh, that's great." Like when I go sit down to work on it, I'm going to kind of pull that up and kind of use it as a rough guide point on how to create this for me to give my clients, right? And so yeah, that's when I really started seeing the power of that. And I think the other thing too, right, is we continue to grow our client base. We have those monthly mastermind meetings. We also have a Slack workspace for all of our clients to be a part of, right? And so I think there's also been a lot of value in, hey, who has something for this, right? Well, even if it's something we already have, just for some added perspective, or maybe it's something we don't have in our resource portal yet, and they can kind of collaborate throughout all of our network of clients. Um, to kind of share and learn from each other too, right? And so I think again, that's where I've started keying in on kind of that visualization side of things is people just need some sort of a starting point, right? And how to do something. So
I mean, I imagine just just access to that Slack group is probably
yeah,
worth it. I mean, there's
Yep.
so much information you can learn from other people
One
who are trying
another.
to do the same thing.
100%.
Actually, I saw on the website too that you have in-person retreats.
Yes.
Is it the first one or have you done it
No,
before?
this will be the third one and coming up in 2025. So we've done it the last 2 years. Thanks for mentioning that, by the way. So we've done it
I'm
the
hoping
last
to
two
get an
years.
invite.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. Let's get you guys out here for it. So yeah, we'll be doing it here July 23rd, 24th, coming up here in 2025. And it's 2 days. We spend 2 days kind of workshopping your business, right? It's not just all about teaching. We always have workbooks put together, application things to work on your business while you're here. Maybe not get everything done, but at least you can start on it, right? Because that's a big thing we always see going to conferences. It's great to leave with a notebook of ideas and then you go home and you're right back to the day-to-day grind, right? And unless you've
Mm,
got that time management and discipline to start checking things off. So we try to spend those 2 days doing some workshop type stuff for your business. We have 70 spots for it this year. We already have about 35 spots spoken for already. So we've got 35 left as of right now, and we keep it to 70. So that way we've got a good, small, intimate group. We
nice.
have had people in other trades come. So the last couple of years, we've had some people in various trades come. Um, Find value in it and stuff. So yeah, you can find all that information on our website. Check it out. But ticket sales are open right now. And we're looking to we expect to be filled up by April 1 for sure. So I'll make sure your invite gets out before then, Sam.
Awesome. Um, well, this has just been like, I feel like we could talk forever, honestly. This has been
Agreed.
really interesting. I feel like it's, again, I mean, I'm a software engineer, but
Yep.
working on Top Line Pro, uh, has been a really satisfying experience because we're helping the same people
Yep.
and it's a sector of the economy that's incredibly important. And I kind of want to, as we near the end, just ask like, what is satisfying about this work to you? Like what keeps you doing it and keeps you passionate about it?
Yeah, I love it. That just gave me chills thinking about it. I think for me, it's either the aha moments, or it's just seeing the transformation in people and their businesses over time, right? It's not always an instant gratification thing, right? I can't just go put
Mm,
a new color in a bedroom and have a before and after picture in 6 hours, right? But I think for me, just really seeing that change in people, especially as you get a few months into it, couple of years in some cases. And we have a lot of clients that have been with us for multiple years, ever since we got going in this, right? And really niche down in the industry. And so it's been really gratifying just to see those changes in people. We've had plenty of people that's, been working 50 hours a week, not making what they need to or want to be making to then be able to flip that and, be able to pick up their kids from school every day and provide that income that they want for their family, right? And have that opportunity. And I think for me, like our big why is that we want to help influence communities, right? Like if you really break it down, and if we can do that by helping the business owner in their life, it's going to trickle down to giving employees a great place to work. And it's also going to provide great customer service and a great experience for all the homeowners in that area. Right. And so I know it sounds like a kind of a big, crazy thought, but like at the end of the day, like that's kind of what our why is, right? Is we want to give we want to give homeowners a great experience from the contractor point of view, but we also want these business owners to enjoy their life and get to the roots on why they started their business in the first place.
that's awesome. I think that's a fantastic way to end. And it's the whole time we've unintentionally, but it's just been on the theme of like the real people behind these
Yep.
businesses. That's really, really great. And yeah, I mean, thank you for coming on. It's been
Absolutely.
fantastic conversation. That's Chris Moore from Elite Business Advisors. Thank you so much. We'll see about getting someone from Top Line Pro on your podcast.
That's coming up after the first year. Don't worry. So thanks for having me, Sam. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.